So, hello everyone, and good morning. Welcome back. We are going to discuss the unit 4 of the topic, the portrait of a lady. Which is written by Khuswant Singh. Let me give you a brief discussion what we discussed in the first, second, and third unit of the topic um, of the portrait of a lady. So, when we talk about the topic, the portrait of a lady, we understood that uh, the author, Khusbant Singh, was discussing mm, about his grandmother, um, and he was also telling about his childhood age. He was giving the description of means the phases that he spends his childhood time with his grandmother. And he also discusses that what kind of a relationship he formed with his grandmother. So we understood in the first part, the author discussed the appearances and um, the characteristic of the grandmother, right? And how they lived their life in rural areas or in village, right? So but when once they came to the city after the author's parents got settled, so they came back to the city, and the kind of a relationship they formed were detached. So you can see that in the unit 4 will be the last part of this topic. And what does it say? Let's see that. And We will find out that when the grandmother came to the city, how did he spend his time? How did he maintain the relationship with with her grandson or grandchildren? Right. So all those things have been discussed here. Right. So we also discussed in the third unit some part of it, like. After coming to the city, the writer's grandmother did not uh, take the writer to the school, as the writer used to go to school by school bus, and he used to learn those of the things that the grandmother did not like. The grandmother wanted her grandson to be studied um, religious theory, whereas religious books or holy books, whereas mm, her grandson or means the writer used to learn music and other subjects which were not liked by the grandmother. Now, the writer also stated that how his grandmother uh, spent her spent her time in school in city, like she used to what do we say that she used to spend her time uh, throughout the day, means by chanting the prayer, like bits of her rosary, as well as she also used that well through which she able to weave cloths, and during the afternoon time she gets only half an hour time, and that half an hour time is the happiest hour for her. She used to give means food to the or bread to the piece of bread to the means pagans or sparrows who join together in the courtyard. So, and sometimes those sparrows come and sat on the means grandmother's leg and grandmother's shoulder, sometimes grandmother's head, right? So, but she did not react anything. She did not shout, and she did not get them. Means she did not tell them also shoo, right? Shoo means get out, right? Now, after that, what we are going to learn in this unit 4. Now, we are already acquainted or familiar with the first three phases. First three phases means uh, the author is telling about author's relationship with his grandmother. So in the first page, we learn that um, the writer talked about his grandmother and telling that what uh, that how his grandmother looked after him in the village, and how he was physically very close to her. Right, that is the first page. The second page, where the author also stated he was estranged from her. Estranged means what? That's something called as a kind of a detachment. Estranged from her when he went to city school. Right. It means after moving from village to city school. Right. So the writer used to go to school by bus, but in village, what happened? The writer used to go to school with his grandmother, right? And that is the difference. So that is why after coming to the city school, what happened? There was a kind of a detachment occurred between them, right? And in the third page, what happened in the third page? The common link of friendship between them snapped. Why? Now, because means the writer went to university, right? So the common link of friendship between the writer and writer's grandmother was broken. So that's called as a snapped. Snapped means that's called as a detached or broken. How? Now when the writer went to university, right? So finally, when he went abroad for further studies, now means um, after coming out from the university, the writer has to go where for further studies to abroad, right? And it was the last sign of physical contact between them was lost. It means now onwards, the writer uh, did not get an opportunity to meet the grandmother physically, right? So in university, sometimes he used to come to home, but after getting into the further studies, so his physical meeting or his physical contact with the grandmother was lost, right? And that would be the concluding part of the text, and which we are going to discuss today. And we will also note how the final curtain falls. Final curtain falls in the grandmother's life means how uh, the ending of this particular excerpt held, and also how the writer loses his grandmother, right? So it means it is the end of means the writer's grandmother. So what actually happened here in this particular part that we are going to discuss? So let's see that. Yeah. So the text says that the writer saying here, when I decided, it means when the writer decided to go abroad. Why? Now, for further studies, right? For future studies or for more studies. So he was sure that his grandmother would be upset, right? Obviously, means when you are planning to go outside or abroad and for your further studies, your family member do not like that, right? Family members specifically feel upset or disturbed or sad, right? The writer also stated the same thing, that he thought that his grandmother would be sad or upset, right? So I would be away for 5 years, so why not? So the writer was going to abroad for 5 years, and at her age one could never tell, right? So at her age, it means even the writer's grandmother was in such an age, right, where she might not, or she must not, interested for sending her grandson to abroad. But the writer's grandmother was something different. The writer's grandmother could. She was not even sentimental. Who was not even sentimental? Writer's grandmother was not even sentimental. So, not even felt sad. She came to leave, right? Even writer's grandmother came to the platform or called as a railway station, right? She came to leave the writer at the railway station, but she did not talk or show any emotion. She was not meant from her behavior, from her talk, right? It was not found that she felt upset. So her lips moved in prayer, right? She was busy by doing her prayer. Her mind was lost in prayer, like she was holding one of the bits of her rosary, and that she was doing every time. Her fingers were busy, right? Telling the beats of her rosary. So, what do you mean by beats of her rosary? It's called as one of the holy uh, holy beads, or called as a kind of a chain, right, which the old people used to hold, and also they pray all the time, right, or they take the name of the god. Silently she was also doing the same thing. Silently she kissed my forehead. Who kissed? Na man's grandmother kissed my forehead, and when I left, I enjoyed. So caressed means enjoyed. I enjoyed the moist imprint, right, as perhaps the last sign of physical contact between us. So writer said means she enjoyed the kind of means interaction, or the kind of means emotion between the writer and writer's grandmother, and he also felt that it was the last sign, because he believed that means his grandmother was so old, right? So after 5 years he would not meet his grandmother, and that day was the last day of means their meeting. So that is why means he believed it was the perhaps the last sign of physical contact between us. But that was not so, right? Why that was not so? Now after 5 years, right, what happened? Now after 5 years, when the writer came back, came back home, so uh, he found, right, he was met by her at the station. So the writer found whom the writer found means his grandmother. Where? At the station. Why? Now, to welcome him. So she did not look a day older. She was not even seeming the means again older. The writer found that she was sane. Uh, right, she still had no time for words. She was busy. She was busy with her bits of her rosary. Right. So, and while she clasped me in her arms. So clasped means what? That called her to hold someone tightly, her hug, right? While she hugged me in her arms, I could hear her reciting her prayer. So the writer could hear the sound of her prayer in her mouth, right? Even on the first day of the writer's arrival, so writer arrived to his city or his home. So there, what happened? Her happiest moment with were with her sparrows, whom she fed longer, and with the frivolous rebukes. Right. So even the writer found that how his grandmother was just spending her happiest moment. Happiest means what? Now that is the moment means you can say that happier than any other moments, right? So that is why the writer stated that it was considered as the happiest moment for her, and that also she spent on the day, right, with her sparrows, and she fed them longer longer means what? Long time than any other day, right? And with also frivolous rebukes. Frivolous means what? That's called as a you shout, right, you push, and you make them you make them shout, right? Frivolous rebukes with the means humorous, or called as a slightly getting angry upon them, upon the sparrows, and telling them huh, huh, so get out, like that. In the evening, right, a change came over her. So finally, what happened means when the day was end and the evening came out, so there was a kind of a change in her body, or in her appearance. She did not pray that day, right? She collected the woman of the neighborhood. So um, the the neighborhood woman, right, whom she invited, right, to her home, and she also got an old drum, right, so and started to sing. Why did she do that? Right, for several hours she thumbed, right, she thumbed the sagging skins. Thumbed means what? Beating, right? She beat the sagging skins of the dilapidated drum, right? Sagging skins of the dilapidated drums. So, what do you mean by thumbed? Thumbed means called as a bet, bet, right? Bet. And what do you mean by the sagging skin? The sagging skin is called as a loosened skin, right? Loosen, or you can say that loosened skins, loosened skins of the dilapidated drum. Dilapidated means the drum which is very old and also means not in a good condition, and sang of the homecoming, right? So what she was doing actually, she was means spending her whole time, right, collecting omen, and with the omen she spent several hours, and she bet with her means loosened skins, old and also weak, right, weak skins, no, of the dilapidated drum. Dilapidated means something which condition is decreased and deteriorated, very old drum, right? And what she did with that, now she sang. What she sang? Now she sang of the whole homecoming. Homecoming means means the authors coming back to home. Right? She celebrated that with the other women of her neighborhood. Right? So that's what it is stated. So, homecoming of warriors, right? So it means it is the happiest, means it is the one of the moment that she celebrates with the neighborhood woman, right, for her grandsons coming back, right? We had to continue, right? We had to continue her to stop to avoid overstraining as she was old and also weak. So that is why all the writer stated that all the family members um, of her, right, so stop her not to do that, not to take stress, overstraining, excessive stress, not to take excessive stress. But that was the first time the writer said that since he had known that she did not pray. It means every day she used to hold that bits of a rosary and pray. But that day was the first time writer came to know that she did not pray. The next morning she was taken ill, right? So because of the last night what she did, right, maybe that was the impact of it, right? But the writer stated the next morning what happened, she was suffering from ill. It was a mild fever. Mild fever means what? She was suffering from some kind of a normal fever, and the doctor told us that it would go. So it means it was a mild fever, not severe or strong, and that fever will stop. But the writer's grandmother thought differently. So it seems like what she knew what was going to happen in after couple of hours. Right? That is why the writer's grandmother thought was different. She told us, she told the family members that her end was near. Her end means what? She was going to die very soon. She said that since only a few hours before the close of the last chapter of her life, right? She bad omitted to pray. She she bad omitted, or she had omitted to pray. She did not means want to pray. She was also not going to waste any more time talking to us, right? So neither she prayed nor she wasted time talking with us, right? The writer stated that means her family member, writer's grandmother's family member, protested, right? Stopped, right? And made her understand, but she ignored our protest. So she did not want to talk to us. She did not want to do any prayer. she lay or she put herself on the bed peacefully, right? Now remember that the word lay, right? So is indicating that a kind of a verb, right? Lay means voluntarily putting oneself on the bed, right? So she lay peacefully in bed, praying and telling her bits, right? She lay peacefully in bed, praying and telling her bits. So there only she did all the things. Even before, the writer said, the family member could suspect her lips stuffed, means she did not means move her lips, right? So she did not move her lips. She was moving, and the rosary, she was means she was not moving her lips, and uh, the telling her bits, right? Or you can say rosary, right? Her lips stopped moving and the rosary fell. Rosary means what? That mali, right? You can say that mali, right? So, or chain, which have a nothing but a crystal ball type, or you can say holy ball, right? And that rosary fell from her lifeless fingers. Lifeless fingers means that she was dead finger, right? Dead fingers. A peaceful pallor, right? When we say that pallor, it's called as a we used to call it that after death of someone we put, right, a kind of a means what do we say, that a kind of uh, mm, a kind of a particular product which we keep on the floor, and there we means put our body, right? Or something like a peaceful pallor. Pallor can be called as a red cloth, a red lion cloth, right? A red lion cloth spread on her face, and we knew that she was dead, right? The writer also stated that how they lifted her off the bed, right? Lifted means what? Took her bed, took her body, right? We lifted her off the bed. We took her body, we took her body and put on the bed, right? Put on the actually here it is stated lifted up. It means they took the body uh, from the bed and keep it on the ground, right? So we lifted her off the bed, and arch is a customary. So the meaning of lifted up is called as a something which has to uh, take out from the bed and put somewhere, right? So we lifted her off the bed, and as is customary based on the custom, parampara, right? So we laid her on the ground. So then after means putting the body of the grandmother on the ground and covered her with a red shroud. Red shroud means red loin cloth. After a few hours of mourning means silent prayer, right? So everybody from the family member and also other people, so all we left her alone to make arrangements for her funeral. So what do you mean by funeral? That's called as a death ceremony. Death ceremony. So uh, they left the body and went for the preparing her death ceremony. So after that, what happened? Right. So now the grandmother died, and means after her death, the writer and the writer's family member means left her body and went for means preparing for her funeral. Now in the evening, so in the evening, we went to her room with a crude stretcher, right? What do you mean by crude stretcher? That's called as a couple of bamboo or bamboo cane. Using with it, a particular bed is created, manual bed is created to take her to be cremated. To take her to be cremated means to put her body on it, and then after means take to a place to cremate. Cremated means we know that crematorium, cremated, so maybe for burning purpose, right? uh, so or buried purpose. So but it is stated that normally cremated means crematorium or called as a burnt, right? So we went to her room with a crude stretcher, that's called as a, putting her body on a means, bamboo or cane made a particular manual bed, right, or manual stretcher, and taking her body to be cremated. The sun was just setting. The sun was just setting and had lit her room and veranda with a sign of blaze of golden light. So the writer was saying that it was the evening time and the sun was setting down, and because of that, so what uh, her family member did, or the writer's family member did, that they lit her room where she used to live, and the veranda also, right? She lit her room and veranda with a sign of golden light, right? So the sun had also lit her room and veranda with a sign of golden light. So we stopped halfway in the courtyard. Right. The writer stated that they did not means, go forward with the grandmother, right, grandmother crematorium. We stopped halfway in the courtyard, all over the veranda, and in her room, right up to where she lay dead and steep wrapped in the red shawl, right? So it was telling that whatever the area means, writer's mother had covered and writer's mother's dead body was kept, right? Writer's grandmother's dead body was kept, right? So till that period, thousands of sparrows thousands of sparrows sat scattered on the floor. Scattered means what? Now they spread everywhere. Those sparrows to whom the writer's grandmother used to provide or used to feed food, right? All those means, sparrows sat scattered. Scattered means what? Spread everywhere on the floor. There was no chirping, right? So none of the sparrows was means making any kind of a noise, right? We felt sorry. We felt sorry for the birds, right? And means, writer's mother faced or brings or brought some bread for them. So the writer's mother thought to give some food to these birds, right? So she broke it into little crumbs. She broke it. It means writer's grandmother, writer's mother, right? Means broke those of the pieces of that bread into little crumbs, and means the way, right, a writer's grandmother used to provide to uh, those of the sparrows. The writer mother also did the same way and threw it them and provided the food to them. The sparrow seemed like they did not notice of the bread, or the sparrow took no notice of the bread. So they did not notice of the bread. So when they carried, right, when they carried my grandmother's corpse off, right. So when people, we is um, referring to the people and the member of the family. So when we carried my grandmother's corpse means body. So when writer and writer's family member took the grandmother's dead body to cremate, right. So all these they means referring to all the sparrow or birds. They flew away quietly. They did not make any noise. They simply leave the place. Next morning, the sweeper swept the bread. Swept means, clean the veranda, right, where the breadcrumbs were scattered. So into the dustbin. So he swept, the sweeper swept the breadcrumbs and put it into the dustbin. So it was the saddest day. It was also very unfortunate. It seemed that what even the sparrows identified that their their means owner, their owner or their means, what do we say that, their food giver or someone who used to give food to them every afternoon was no more, right? So that's why they felt sad and they've also attended the morning. They also attended the morning. They also did the silent prayer, right? They understood that their means their owner is not no more, right? So therefore means they did not also take the breadcrumbs, and they leave the place quietly, right? This seems, right, that how much these sparrows are also like means are liking to the writer's grandmother. So this is clearly an example, right? This is clearly an example of the means of the you know of the past with the present, right? And the kind of a phases that the writer and writer's grandmother lived their life together, and it also a kind of a moment that both detached from their both detached from their means relationship, right? Because of the busy schedule. So it gives us the kind of a idea that how we people are means making ourselves so busy that we do not have means some time for our family members, and the kind of a relationship we formed is only held in the dinner table, lunch table, and breakfast table. That's all, right? And we don't have much time also to talk each other's or one another's health condition. So we talk to means outside world over the phone, over the computer, over the internet, but we do not have time to ask our neighborhood means their how they are, right or not. With this note, I hope you understand this chapter. This chapter is all about nothing but the three phase of life that the writer and writer's grandmother spent together, how they means formed the relationship, and how the relationship was just snapped, right? So when they came back to the means you can say that city. I hope you understand all the things. So if you have any kind of a doubts or query or any questions, please do ask, right, in in my comment box. I'll be happy to give you the answers. That's all. Thank you.